Are we ready?
I think so. Welcome, Bright Group members. I am thrilled to have you. It's been a while since we've been here on Wisdom Wednesday. And I have an amazing guest for us today. Susan Appleton. She is the owner of Appleton Communication. She is a communication and soft skills expert. And so we're thrilled to have her expertise here, given the state of our working environment and where we're headed and how much we can see into the future that we're going to be leveraging virtual technology. It's so important for us to be able to somewhat master this, especially as leaders, right? So she's going to be here to share some of her secrets, what she's sharing with her clients, what she's learned, and how we can improve and get better. So Susan, thank you for coming and thank you for being here with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, we have a great audience. They will feel free at any point, you guys, to ask questions. I will relay any of your questions to her, but also engage, share what you're doing, share what you found has been helpful. Because I'll be the first one to tell you that I do this a lot, but I don't know everything, right? And so I think the more that we share, the more we can learn and grow from each other.
Absolutely.
So, Susan, tell us, what do you want us to walk away with today? What is your goal? And if you can share with us what you think virtual presence is and what that means, that would be fantastic to kick us off.
Okay. The goal for everyone is for leaders, those who are positioning themselves to be leaders. I personally think everyone has leadership capacity. It's just a matter of how far you want to pull it out, right?
Absolutely.
Team members and colleagues, and for everyone to really take part in understanding that this is an opportunity to create a collective engagement environment. As leaders, one of the things that we're responsible for is making sure that everyone is involved. Well, the virtual space kind of puts that in the forefront. So if you think, for instance, when you used to have a meeting in person, if Susan decided to participate, she might, but she wasn't necessarily brought to the forefront. However, in a virtual space, by the sheer magnitude of it being virtual, I need to have a voice. And so I want you all, and I want us to walk away with, how do we ensure that everyone in the room becomes a part of the collective? Because it's a business, whether it's a small meeting, a large meeting, a small corporation, or a large corporation, we are generally meeting for a purpose and not just to say, hi, how are you? I could do that personally. So there's a method, there's a reason for us gathering together. And it's our job to make sure that our virtual space is really productive, that everyone has a presence other than just being on the screen.
I love it. I love it. And I think it is so important because so many people are trying to transition into this space right now. And I think there's a level of comfort with some people and a level of discomfort, right? And so how do we as leaders be able to bring everybody together in this new space and be collaborative and let people bring themselves to the party and be comfortable in it?
And be comfortable in it on different levels. When you said be collaborative, the goal isn't for me to become the most talkative person in the space if that's not my norm. However, I do need to say something, right? And so how do you as a leader pull that out of me without putting me on the defensive? I'm on camera, oh my gosh, you called on me, right? How do you do that? Because it's necessary. The other point that you talked about is we're becoming comfortable. Some of us are real comfortable with it and some people not so much. However, this platform, this virtual space will probably be a part of our going forward, at least in the next 3 years or so, because everyone is not going to transition back. In some are transitioning back in part. So you may have this in your world for quite a while. And you've got to be able to capitalize on that as a person who's sitting in the seat and as a person who's sitting at the head of the table.
I completely agree.
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so what are your top 3 recommendations that you offer leaders to be able to do this?
One of the first things I would say is ask questions and use prompts. And I know we often say ask questions, but I really mean engaging questions and using engaging language. For example, Angela tends to be pretty quiet and John tends to be pretty quiet. Susan, on the other hand, often has something to say. So you don't have to prompt Susan to engage in the conversation, but you may have to ask Angela or John, well, John, what are your thoughts on this? And it's the way that you ask it. It's not, you have to be very careful that you're not coming across overly aggressive or demanding, because remember, John usually isn't a talker, right? Yeah. And you want to pull him out and make him feel comfortable. So you position your body softly and you change your tone. Hey, John, make it light. Not, John, what's your intake? No, make it light and soft. Hey, John, you haven't said anything. What's your thought on that? And just that little piece, not on the whole project. So you give him an opportunity to participate. So ask questions. And the second thing is pay attention. This is an opportunity for us to learn who we're working with and what are their qualities. Usually we run in, hi, here's the meeting, 10, 15 minutes. We say what we have to say. Okay, you've got your assignment, Bye, I'll see you guys next week when we meet again. This is not that. This is an opportunity for you to pay attention like you've never paid attention before, because the virtual space will let you see who your introverts are, because they rarely have anything to say. Now, they rarely had anything to say before, but you didn't pay attention. But they're right in front of you now, right? Or even if it's not visual, even if your virtual meeting is over the phone and there's no visual, you still can pay attention to the fact that Jan doesn't often have anything to say. Whereas your extrovert personalities will come out because they'll want to dominate the conversation. Again, they were dominating the conversation before. But now you have an opportunity to say, hey, thank you, Susan, for your contribution. I appreciate that so much. But John, you're not saying much, right? So you pay attention. Also, pay attention to how non-work related things affect the virtual space. This is new to a lot of us in the fact that I'm meeting you from my kitchen table, from my living room, from my office. Whereas before we were all meeting in a collective space, I'm meeting you in my environment. And things will happen in my environment. So as a leader, we've got to be cognizant of, oh, hold on, wait a minute, the 2-year-old just spit up. I got to go clean it up. And not get offended, because that is the life that we live in, right? I want to control those circumstances as much as I can, but I might not be able to. The other thing about the home environment is that things happen that will affect me that you'll probably be able to see that you wasn't able to see before. Good and bad. So my daughter graduated and I came in and I was talkative and I was smiling, and you're thinking, Susan's different today, right? Whereas before, if I had come to the office, perhaps your office was on the east wing, my office was on the west, and you never knew that my daughter graduated. 2 days later, when we met in person, It's no big deal, right? Because it had passed. The other thing is my dog died, and I'm really very solemn. Well, as a leader, it's up to you to pay attention to the fact that I'm talking a little softer, my head's a little lower, my countenance a little low, and bring that into your mind and not say that might not be the day. If you're really paying attention, to prompt me with 500 questions to ask me to engage. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love it. Now, it talks to things that we have always talked about. And the first sort of rule of leadership that we talk about here is to know your people, right? To really know them. And so you're expanding on that and you're saying, listen to their cues, right? We have so much distraction going on right now, right? And I think people are balancing more things than they have ever had to before. So paying attention to those cues as a leader is so critical to sort of meet them where they are, right? Love it.
And my third recommendation is really cool. It's kind of fun. Do some virtual icebreakers. Things that we reserve for traditional training or structured interaction. Bring that into the simple things that will make me engage. Like, what's your favorite color? I don't have to go into a 5-page soliloquy about what's my favorite color, but I do have to talk.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So you go around the table. Okay, today we're going to start off a little lighter. Bring the personality into it. And you don't lose your title, but bring the personality, because at the end of the day, it's about business, it's about productivity, and it's about the bottom line, correct? You want to make sure that I am at home being as productive as I was if I were in the office, if not more, and understand that that's a little bit more challenging. So bring the personality into it and help me to understand Angela, the person. Oh, she likes red, right? It might not mean a lot, but if every week or every other week, I learn something about my leader. She likes red. She doesn't like to go to the grocery store. She loves her twins and can talk about them ad infinitum. So you see, every time I get the opportunity, and if I can become more comfortable with you in the virtual space, you'll probably have to prompt me a little less to give my input on the statistical report that I have to contribute. I'm going to add a little more to it than just, okay, the stats are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That is so critical, Susan, when you talk about that, because I think a lot of leaders feel like those kind of things are fluff. It's not adding value. It's goofy. It's, no one cares about that kind of stuff, right? But when you explain it in a way that it helps over time, it helps you get to know people, and it helps, I think, other people get to know each other too. Think about people who start a new job in this sort of environment. They're never going to interact with people the same way that we used to, right? So there's so many ways that you could use just those lighthearted, simple ways to start a meeting that it may seem frivolous at first, but over time, what the value that it brings to you and the other people that are involved, you get to know them, you get to know their likes, their dislikes. And that is how it's like the key of how to motivate people, is to knowing what they like and what they don't like.
And our goal and our strategy as a leader is forward thinking, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Isn't it our projections are not for the month of August. Our projections are for August 2025. And so if we're leading from the front and we understand that the biggest and most consistent thing that's going to get us there is people and their feeling valued and their contribution. So none of those things disappear because we're in a virtual environment. So those tangible things that you're talking about that oftentimes we do, and the more we go up the leadership ladder, the more we think of them as fluff. Can we just get to the point? Okay, cut to the chase. What do you have to say?
Yeah.
Right. However, that doesn't necessarily always get us there as a collective. Sure, I am going to do my job and I'm going to meet my measures. But do you want me to meet them because it's my job? Or do you want me to meet them because I want to meet them, because I want to be successful, because I want you to be successful,
Right.
because I want the organization to be successful? And soft skills and people skills connect to all of that. So there must be value added. And we must take the time as leaders to literally lead that charge. And this is an opportunity to do that.
It's great. I love that. I love that thought process. And I think the more that you can do that, and the more that you can tie it in somehow as to, you know, how you're gathering this information and how you're absorbing all of this, and sort of tie that back in throughout the year, I think it's phenomenal. And you'll start to see how people start to act more as a team, even in the virtual environment, right?
And I want to make a point that all of this has to do with the organization or the company moving forward, right? It is not about what I call a separation of church and state. Is actually putting all of the pieces and adding value to all of the pieces so that we can be more productive. Remember, I'm challenged at home. I've not worked from a virtual environment before. So I need you to help me to help you, right? And it's never disconnected from what the mission is. One of the things, if you're not comfortable with that fluffy piece as a leader, perhaps it's about making sure that you set the culture in our virtual environment. And you guys, I know we're in a virtual environment. It's kind of new to us, but we all have our project that we're working on. So every time we come together, I want to make sure that you have your report out ready. For example, Susan, you're on tap next week with what's going on with customer segment 1. I want you to make sure that you have that ready. You didn't do fluff, but you said your expectation is that I have what I need. You want me to present it, which gives me the opportunity to improve my communication skills. So if you're not a leader who's comfortable with the fluff, change the fluff. The point is, get everyone involved. It's an opportunity to collectively drive the organization forward.
I completely agree. Very well said.
Do we have any questions from anyone?
Not yet. I don't see any in the chat. So if you have anything, make sure you get it in the comments, and feel free to contribute or ask any questions. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So did you have anything that you wanted to sort of wrap this up with? Like what can we do as leaders to continue to improve on this? And how do we maximize our time so that we are continuing to improve, to become better, and to sort of involve in this environment?
One thing, two things. As the leader, you must be transparent with your level of comfortability. Oftentimes we lead, but we're not comfortable with people. We lead. And I've got the projects, I've got the whiteboard and everything that went, and I've got everything down pat, but I don't interact with people. I just expect you to execute. This has put a little different pie. The expectations that I had are still the same, but now I actually have to tell you, I expect you to execute. I actually have to be on. I can't defer to my secretary every time for every meeting in a virtual environment. I have to show up at some point. So you've got to be comfortable in your level of comfortability and where you are. And if any of this applies to you, then it is your charge to improve. If you are not a people person, it is your charge to say, at this meeting, I'm going to ask 3 questions. And that's my goal. Verbally, I'm going to say, or at this meeting, I'm going to ask Angela and John for their contributions. So see, I have a strategy. I've got a plan to become more. The second thing is start to reframe the mindset that virtual is not in person. It is. We're talking. We're looking at each other. If we didn't have the visual, we would be talking to it. It is the same thing. So we have to dispel the fact that some things or everything has changed. No, everything has not changed. We still have to be leaders. We still have to be engaging. We have to understand that this is not how it's going to be all the time, forever and ever and ever. There may be some semblance of it, but our company at one point could go back to everybody's in the office every day, 9 to 5. And now, if you take the opportunity to engage Susan in the virtual environment, when you pass her in the hallway, now you've got a connection. Oh, that's the person in HR that you never paid attention to before because you had to be on a call with them for 3 weeks because there was an issue that all the leaders in HR needed to talk about to make sure that we were ready for whatever it was. So be comfortable and then dispel in yourself and in others that everything is new. Everything is not.
Yeah. And I would add to that is, if this is new, to ask for help, right?
Yes.
There's so many, you can practice with a confidant. If this is not a good space for you, you bomb all the virtual meetings that you're in, ask for help. As leaders, we have to get better about asking for help. You could ask your team, even say, I'm open to your feedback. I am open, and they might be hesitant because you are their boss, but, just ask, just say, hey, give me feedback. I want these meetings to be so much more productive. So I'm open to hearing feedback from you. So always ask for help.
Always. And part of the feedback, you can do it softly by doing the little icebreakers.
Yeah.
And surveys in a level that what's your best takeaway from me this week? What's the
perfect.
thing that you think that I can improve? And you guys, it's okay. I know I'm the boss. However, let's make that, because I want to improve. So you can make it into an opportunity for them to be a little more comfortable, with giving you that feedback. But definitely ask for help and ask your team what it is that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get better together.
We tend to falter a little bit in our virtual environment. I know this is new to us. What do you guys need? What do you need for us to do different? What challenges do you find?
Yeah.
And perhaps that's a meeting and not a meeting about anything else. Perhaps it's a meeting about what do we need collectively to maximize our virtual environment.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, if anything that has taught us is to be real. We have to be real with people, right? I mean, it's like, as you said, everything's kind of blended together. So this is the real us. So I think being real with your people and allowing them to be real with you too gives you that sort of level set the playing field. We do have some questions.
Okay.
All right, so you touched on this a little bit, but you can expand. How do we keep everyone on task and stay on topic in a Zoom call? We've seen these go sideways pretty quickly. So what are your tips on that?
I think one part of it is realizing, not realizing, but being okay, even if just a little bit okay with life happening. Previously, we didn't have any distractions because we were in our office, we were in the space, and we can have our meeting undistracted, right? So be a little graceful of something happens with the child. And because I'm home, I'm going to take care of it, right? The second thing is set the culture that when we meet, we're meeting. The expectation that I have for preparation hasn't changed. Meetings start at 8. One of my sayings is 8 o'clock is 8 o'clock is 8 o'clock. Not 8:05, not 8:10, not 8:15. So we expect our meetings to start on time, have an agenda, have some of the things that you used in your in-person environment, bring them over into the virtual space to try to help to combat that productivity and so on and so forth. If we can do that on a regular basis every week, we increase the likelihood that Susan is doing that at home when she's not on a call, right? You will also have to recognize who you have to check in on and who you don't.
Right.
There are some Susans who are going to be great, and you can tell by what they're doing and what they're producing. And there are others who, before we went virtual, were not pulling their load. And if you didn't hold them accountable then, guess what? They are doing that at home. So you may have to check in a little bit more and broach that. Can you give me your productivity report or whatever you want to call it? So those are a few things.
Great. All right, another question. How do you get corporate-minded individuals to understand that holistic approach is not just fluff?
I think that that you have to value people. And with not that, let me restate that, because not that corporate people don't value. It's the intangible pieces. A lot of times we see what connects to the bottom line. We see the tangible. This was a direct result of that. And I can point an arrow right to it and know that doing this directly resulted in that. And I have it on paper, right? A holistic approach doesn't necessarily always involve seeing those tangible pieces. And that's the challenge. So I would say when you're in a corporate environment, it's a work in progress. And know what the little steps are. If I was extremely hard before as a corporate leader and I've softened up, that's a victory. Don't expect me to go from 0 to 1,000. I went from 0 to 10 in a month, but I was hard 5 years prior. I didn't smile. So I think we will have to take a little step at a time. I think one of the ways that we can change the corporate person's mindset is by leading by example.
Absolutely.
If I'm always hard, I'm always fast, I'm always short, why do I have a different expectation from my leader? So lead by example, and show and be willing to teach and not just be a taker of learning. Joe, I read this really great book and it's helped me a lot in such and such an area. Here's a copy for you whenever you have some time. I know you don't have a lot of time, because you're running the corporation, but so those little ways. But I think we have to understand that it takes time and it takes our involvement to help others to get there.
That's great. I think that's very helpful. All right, another question. How do we address staff that are repeatedly late or miss virtual calls and meetings? You kind of touched on this a little bit, but.
I'm a huge person for accountability.
Yes.
Hold them accountable from the beginning, set expectations from the beginning, and adhere to the expectations. Otherwise, Why would I accommodate your expectations if today you have one and tomorrow you don't? Right? Be direct. Susan, for the last 3 virtual meetings, you've been 10 minutes late or you've left the call early. You've got to say it like it is. It doesn't have to be harsh. It doesn't have to be hard, but it needs to be factual and it needs to be stated up front. I also think you approach them with how what they're doing affects the rest of the team. So let me give you an example, Susan. Every time you're late, remember your report is attached to John's. So when you're late on giving your report out, I can't start him. It impacts. So you have to draw the correlation to how my negligence affects the rest of the team. And then you give me a plan and hold me to it. So the commitment that I have from you is that for the next 4 meetings, start me small. Give me 4 meetings. That doesn't mean after the 4, I get to go away. Now, remember, I want this to become your norm. For the next 4 meetings, for the rest of the month, let's just focus on this right now. I want you to show up on time. No excuses, no cat, no rat. Get everything prepared in advance. Do whatever you need to do, but come 8 o'clock, front and center is where I expect you. What we can learn from that is when we get back into the corporate environment and Susan's work time is 8 o'clock, Susan should not have been allowed to come in at 8, get her coffee, set her desk up, go and talk, and then at some point, kind of around 8:30, find her way to work. Well, if you allowed that for 12 years, just because I'm working in a virtual environment, the habit probably hasn't changed. So reset, recalibrate, say, I know I've allowed this to get out of hand. I, as the leader, have never addressed this before, but I am determined that things are going to be different and we're going to start here. And you have to hold them accountable.
Right. And it's changing behavior, right? So it's going to take, take you being now focused and diligent about it and set that expectation and make sure that the person is actually aware of what your expectations are. If they're not aware, then they're never going to change their behavior.
And realize it's going to take some time and effort on your part.
Yep. Now, I was going to ask you, would you be in the fan club of doing that, level setting that in the group meeting or privately with that individual?
It would have to be addressed with the individual.
Okay.
If you want me to hear you,
yes,
and you're going to be the leader, you're going to speak in a leadership tone with expectations, and my plan is going to be different from Angela's plan. So that is definitely a private conversation and a private accountability. If I'm late to the meeting and 10 minutes late on next week, you don't say, well, Susan, I thought you said you were going to be on time in the midst of everyone. No. And that's what I mean when I say it's going to take time and effort on our part. And it's exhausting because I'm running a company. The other part of that is get the co-leaders involved. So if you are, say, the CEO, honestly, I don't have time as a CEO to keep track of whether Susan comes to the meeting, but I do notice that she's late often. So I'm not going to handle that. I'm going to ask Susan's supervisor to set the standard, and then I'm going to expect to see the change in the behavior because Susan now is coming to the meetings on time.
I completely agree. That's perfect. I just wanted to make sure that was clear for everybody. And I think the other thing right now is to maybe ask if there's a lot of people are somewhat, like I said, they were balancing so many different things. If that meeting time is conflicting with what time the nanny shows up or what time they drop something, just ask what's going on. Why does it seem like you're late to every meeting? And there could be justifiable reason, not that they're just blowing it off.
Could be.
Yeah.
Because remember, we're in a virtual world. So when I was able to leave out the house at 7 and whatever happened, I didn't have to deal with it.
Correct.
Perhaps it's front and center every morning. And I still need to figure it out.
Yeah.
But by making the leader aware, I'll know that, oh, okay, she's not just being negligent. Then I can set a time frame for, okay, I need you to figure it out in the next 20 days.
Right.
In the next 2 weeks.
Yep, absolutely. Great. One other question. How do you manage time or limit time to allow everyone an opportunity to speak and stay within the allotted time of the meeting? We're over 5 minutes here as well, but it is hard when you have so much good discussion and collaboration. You don't want to stop it, but what are your thoughts on how to keep everybody in the same direction and have a rich, healthy environment?
And I apologize for going over.
Oh, so you're good. You're good.
Quickly, set the standard up front. Hey, you guys, over the last couple of weeks, I know we've had a great time, but we've been running over. And out of a respecter, I'd like us to give our report outs really short and concise. If it'll help, send it to me in advance. Send me an email or send the group a communication in advance so that we can look it over and then you can get us a synopsis. I tend to be very direct, but softly. And, I would say something like, hey, we've gone over the last couple of meetings. So if you're tending to go over in your explanation, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up and then we'll put the rest of it in the parking lot. I call the parking lot something that we need to revisit. So Susan, say she had 5 minutes and now she's right at 6. I'm like, okay, Susan, you're a little over, wrap it up for me. And then let's put the rest of it in the parking lot and we'll revisit it when we come back next time. So I think you have to set the standard and that'll also come from knowing your people.
Correct.
Don't call on Susan who can talk for 15 minutes when you only have 1 minute left in the meeting. She automatically goes to the parking lot for next meeting.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. And the discussion is not going to end. I know a lot of people catch us on the replay. So continue to ask questions, continue to share your tips, your tricks. Hopefully normally these last a couple weeks. So we'll continue the conversation in the comments. So, thank you again, Susan, for sharing your expertise, being real with us today. And if people want to reach out to you, you do run a business and you do provide service for leaders. So share with everyone how they can reach out to you and what kind of services you provide.
I am at appletoncommunication.com. You can reach out via the website. My phone number is 832-600-1828. So you can call and ask questions. You can also go to the website and do a consultation. I provide leadership services such as what you've experienced today in helping leaders to develop high-level communication, messaging, and soft skills that really just help them to accelerate their business, brand, and bottom line. We do it through coaching, leadership soft skills programs, workshops, and one-on-one and group environments. So that's me. Please reach out if you have any questions. If you have any questions about what we were talking about today, you can do that as well. Comment in the group, or if you want to learn more, just give me a call.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, everybody, keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming, and we will continue to answer through the comments in the chat.
And Angela, thank you personally. Thank the Bright Group, the leadership group members for allowing me to come in, and I appreciate the time. So let's just grow together.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.